What I would say this to people in prison. And for anybody in here that doesn't know my story, I spent 19 years in federal prison for trafficking cocaine. Okay. I met God in prison. I got saved in prison. I was one of them. But it wasn't the first time I'd been to prison. I'd been to prison multiple times. I was a gang member, but I actually had just the 100% authentic encounter with Jesus. I did all my time. I didn't come to Jesus to try to get me out of prison early or something weird like that. Okay. I've been out now about 2 years now. And God is confirming this ministry with signs and wonders. Period. Miracles, a lot. It's wild. It's wild. In prison, I would tell men this: you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself at least one time in your life to investigate and see if this thing is real or not. You hear me? You owe it to yourself at least once in your life on this earth, whether you live to be 80, 90, maybe you are blessed and you live to be 100. You owe it to yourself at least one time to investigate for real and see if this thing is true or not. And what I would do is I would start right there with the Gospels in the Bible. I don't care whether you believe that the Bible's true or not true, or man wrote it or man corrupted it, or whatever you might believe at this point. Go in there and read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Go read that. You need to really read those four. It won't take you long to do it. You could probably do it in 3 days. And I want you to look at those eyewitness accounts, because that's how we understand any figure in history. The way that we understand Napoleon Bonaparte, the way that we understand George Washington, the way that we understand any figure like that. Eyewitness accounts, people that were there that say, listen, I was there, this is what happened. And when you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you will not just hear their eyewitness accounts, you will hear the eyewitness accounts of others that were there, that walked with Jesus for 3.5 years. And the things he didn't do them in a closet. He did them in front of thousands and thousands of people. He didn't just do it for one night. He did it over the course of 3.5 years. Miracle after miracle after miracle. He didn't just do them in front of his buddies. Everybody saw what was going on. But one of the main points of evidence that you'll find is that all those people, the ones that were with him, that walked with him and saw all these miracles, saw him raising people from the dead, saw him, listened to him when he said, I am the only way to God. When he told them, listen, I am going to die. People are going to come and get me and kill me. And I will rise again from the dead. And then he came back and rose again from the dead. And he hung out with them for 40 days. It's not like they saw him in a cloud and said, I think I saw Jesus' face. No, he hung out with them for 40 days. Alive. After being resurrected from the dead with holes in his hands and in his side where he'd been crucified. One of the greatest points of evidence that that is true, after you read those Gospels, is the fact that every single one of those people had an opportunity to save their life years later, 20, 15, some of them 5 years later, some of them 15, 20, 25, 30 years later. After Jesus was dead and resurrected and already went to heaven, they had opportunity in their life to save their life. When the Romans would grab them and say, here's the deal, Peter. We like you. We don't hate you, man. We know you got a wife and a family. We really don't want to do this to you. But unless you say that Jesus Christ was not God in the flesh, unless you say that he did not rise again from the dead, we are going to crucify you. Do you understand that? All you got to do is say that, man, and we're going to let you go. Just renounce that. Just say, man, it's not true. Jesus did not rise from the dead, and we're going to let you go. You know how many of those people did that? 0. None of them, every single one of them chose death instead. And many of them were tortured to death. That's a pretty strong eyewitness right there, who says, you know what? My life on this earth and this torture that you're going to do to me means nothing, because I walked around with God after they killed him. Jesus, the only Son of God, God in the flesh. I walked around with him for a month while he still had these two big holes in his hands and a spear wound in his side. You can't tell me that he isn't who he says he is, and you can't tell me that he didn't rise from the dead. And I don't care. Y'all can fillet me alive. And they did. And they chopped their heads off and they boiled them in water and they killed their families. And they went on. They continued to do that for hundreds of years. A lot of people don't know that. That continued to happen for hundreds of years. They would grab folks and they would tell them, you are going to renounce this. You are going to say right now that that is false and that is not true, or we're going to kill you and we're going to kill your kid. And they'd say no. Eyewitness testimony. So that's what I would tell somebody that says, man, I don't believe in God. I don't believe that this Jesus is real. I'd say, look, go look at the eyewitness accounts. Analyze it for yourself. You owe it to yourself at least one time in your life to take a look. Take a peek. I tell you what really helps a lot of folks. Come in here. We're in here every night. Come in here once in a while. We're in here every single night at 8 p.m. Central. Come in here a few times a week and listen and see what God does. You come in here to one of our deliverance services. And anything that's in you that's been trying to afflict you or oppress you with bad thoughts, depression, anxiety, addiction, doubt, unbelief, any of that, suicidal thoughts, any of that, sexual perversion, greed, whatever it is, we'll cast that up out of you. It's a fact. How? Through the name of Jesus and the power in his shed blood on that cross, which defeated every form of evil. We've had it happen in here dozens of times. Dozens.